Three major 9/11 conspiracies debunked. Number one, it was actually a missile that hit the Pentagon and not a plane. Many people think that due to the damage that was done to the Pentagon, resembling something other than a plane, and the fact that only two videos exist of the plane actually striking, that it was actually a missile that hit the Pentagon and not a plane. However, all this can be explained, and there's just something really wrong with this theory that no one seems to talk about. First, the reason people think that a missile hit the Pentagon is because of the lack of videos. You see, the FBI gathered over 85 videos of the plane hitting the Pentagon, but those were kept hidden for years. It wasn't until May of 2006 where two videos of the plane striking the Pentagon were released to the public. Because of this, people think that the FBI could be hiding something. Now, the reason this happened was because the videos were considered as criminal evidence. They didn't want the jury pool being tainted during the trial of someone who was allegedly involved with the 9/11 attacks. Secondly, these two videos are the only ones where you can actually see the plane hitting the building. If you watch one of the videos, you understand that they're very low quality and that you can't really see the plane. It's mostly just an explosion that happens in the distance. So imagine what the other videos could have been. But this is mostly fuel for this theory. Now, the other reason people think it was actually a missile that hit the Pentagon was because of the damage that was done. You see, when you look at the towers that day, you can tell it was a plane because of the shape in the towers. However, when you look at the Pentagon, it looks like a giant hole, and there's no outline of a plane like there was for the towers. Now, the thing is, the plane was flying so low, damn near close to the ground. So that's one reason. And two, the towers are made of more steel and glass, whereas the Pentagon was mostly just concrete. That's why it has that weird shape. Now, there is actually two things really wrong with this theory. If a missile really did hit the Pentagon, then what happened to the plane that was hijacked? You see, Flight 77, which is the plane that struck the Pentagon, was confirmed to have been hijacked, and there were a total of 64 passengers on board. So if a missile really did hit the Pentagon, then what happened to those passengers? Did they just vanish in the thin air, or were they just dropped off into Haiti to become mango farmers? The plane was confirmed to have taken off from the airport and was confirmed to have been hijacked. And the plane was obviously being tracked by air traffic controllers, so they witnessed it take a weird turn completely off path. This theory completely disregards the people of that plane. Then you got the fact that there was actually plane debris at the scene of the crash. If a missile really did hit the Pentagon, then that means people would have to plant messed up airplane parts at the scene. And if they really did that, then they would have for sure been caught. So no, it was not a missile that struck the Pentagon that day. Number two, Bush did 9/11. There are many theories that suggest that George W. Bush did 9/11, or at least let it happen, to justify the US invading Iraq and having involvement in the Middle East, and of course, for oil. This theory became even more popular after Epstein allegedly owned a painting of George W. Bush playing with paper airplanes, but that was disproven. Now the thing is, 9/11 had already been planned for years before George W. Bush even became president, and there were already terrorists planning for this in the US under orders from Al Qaeda. Now, as far as them letting it happen, well, that's kind of weird. Now, this theory mostly comes from the fact that the US already knew about Osama bin Laden and that he was a terrorist. He was already on their radar because of previous terrorist attacks on Americans, like the 1998 embassy bombings. He was already on the radar of the CIA and FBI, and even George W. Bush knew that he could potentially attack the US. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they let it happen. It's kind of when your friend dates a known bop, and you know that she's a bop. You can warn him and know that there's a chance that she might cheat on him. And if that does happen, well, that doesn't mean that you let it happen. In a way, the same logic applies here. The US already knew that he could potentially attack the US, but that doesn't mean that George W. Bush or the rest of the US government let the attacks happen, or that they themselves did it. Number three, $2.3 trillion went missing the day before 9/11. Now, this theory suggests that $2.3 million went missing the day before 9/11. So the 9/11 attacks were done as a distraction from them. But this is really just an accounting mistake. Basically, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld gave a speech about how the Department of Defense cannot track $2.3 million in transactions. And people pretty much just took this the wrong way. That's literally just what it is. This theory also ties into the Pentagon theory because the area that was hit in the Pentagon was the accounting section. That was also under renovation. Now, this is just a major coincidence, but it does add fuel to the fire because of that speech that was given the day before. But like I said already, that was just taken extremely out of proportion. So no, 9/11 was not done as a way to distract people from missing money. So that about just wraps it up. I obviously couldn't go into every conspiracy theory revolving 9/11. You know, I could have gone over how Flight 93 was allegedly shot down by fighter jets, or how Israel had some type of thing going on with 9/11, how they supposedly did it. But nah, these are just the three I've actually had conversations with other people about, and the ones I feel like people believe in the most.